low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yo, go, go, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range, cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They'll deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. You got a mind, but even that could change. You could flip the gray matter like some batter in your brain. That's why I say, fake it till you make it A. And if you play that game, then you just might make a change. Rearrange all the bad to okay. Take the worst thoughts saying, turn them to a game. Take the best thoughts saying, put them on display. On repeat in your brain till you're feeling no more pain. Never slow yourself down, you can do some more. Push past all the pain and you'll find a door. Open it up and finally explore everything that you thought you could never do before. And even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's your loss. See, I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Choke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact. Cause I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed, and everything I do the best. And deep within my mind, you know I'll always manifest it. justice.
Hello and welcome to my Mind Over Your Matter. My name is Rick, and it's Friday night, and I'm not feeling all right, but the show must go on. I was like, I didn't want to be laying around doing nothing. I might as well sit here, talk for a bit, at least for an hour and a half, and smoke some medicine. Because smoking, it makes me feel good. So I'm going to smoke, and I hope you guys have yours to smoke and you enjoy yourselves. If you're not a smoker or you're a drinker, whatever the hell that makes you happy, go for it. Today's been a weird day. Sauce for me. My energy has been all over the place today. I haven't been feeling so good energy wise. Just like when you have too much on your plate, and it's just you don't want some of the stuff on your plate, and you just like sneak it out and you throw it away. That's how I feel like today. It's just my spine has been giving me issues, my neck has been giving me issues today, and I'm trying my best to deal with it, but my best is not enough, and it just really irritates when this pain just continues to happen, and it's not fun at all. But I do move it. I move it around. You can see I do this all the time to loosen up the neck. But yeah, today's been a crazy day. I guess Kash Patel is thinking about leaving the FBI. He's thinking about leaving the director's position of the FBI because of Bongino. Bongino has this big beef with Pat Bondi over the Jeffrey Epstein's file. She had the information. She had the stuff. Bongino knows the truth, and that's why he's acting the way he's acting, because he knows too much and he knows the truth. And the fact that they're hiding the truth to protect certain people, rich people, people of power, it's disgusting, and I believe the list should be released. Like, these people should be held to their consequences of what they have committed. And all these children that were trafficked, they need to get down to who trafficked them, who took them there, when did they take them, from where. Like, there's so many questions and yet no answers. The only thing you get is, there's no list. Okay, next. Like, the story just stopped. Next. Which is crazy. Which is downright crazy. So let's check out this video real quick from Benny Johnson's show. And let me make myself a little big here. This guy with the Benny Johnson.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. The fallout from the Epstein saga nightmare crisis for the Trump administration continues to boil over into absolute chaos inside of federal law enforcement in Washington, D.C., with Dan Bongino saying that he will resign if Pam Bondi stays on as Attorney General. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Kash Patel as well, saying that he is going to leave if Bongino leaves. You can either pick. It's either Bongino or Bondi. The pick is obvious. Bondi must go, says Megyn Kelly, ladies and gentlemen. Kash Patel rumored to also be considering resignation if Pam Bondi stays on, as according to reporting here. Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi has sparred over the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files, and it looks like Bongino and Kash are done being humiliated. Bongino is reportedly furious with Attorney General Pam Bondi over her handling of the Epstein files, which has led to many to believe he could walk off the job. A source close to Bongino says that he's effectively issued an ultimatum saying he's about to clean out his desk if Pam stays on. Bongino left a lucrative career in broadcasting to take this job. Ladies and gentlemen, the entire internet is taking one side here. I'm not sure about Cash leaving, but the report that Dan Bongino is cleaning up after Pam Bondi is 100% accurate, and he's done. It comes after months of frustrations. I have airtight multiple sourcing on this. Dan isn't the only one who feels this way. Cash and Dan for months have tried to get Pam to understand the importance of.
Well, they've only been working for like 6 months.
Becoming apparent
in Washington,
falling on deaf ears, and Pam is giving multiple avenues to pursue and infinite examples of people who need to be brought in front of a special counsel. She has refused to budge every single time. This is a real nightmare. Susie Wiles, a long-standing close and personal friend of Pam's, in the event that Trump would consider keeping Dan and maybe Cash if he wants out too, it's likely that his chief of staff will recommend against it. Layers of problems. I don't think Bongino is going back to the office on Monday if something doesn't happen to Pam. Or even a special counsel search announced, perhaps. It would represent a massive victory for the swamp and indeed sex traffickers and predators. Letting Cash and Dan walk while keeping Pam cover-up Bondi would be the cause of total revolt from the base. That's a matter of fact. It would be a disaster for the midterms, and there's no universe where that can happen without major blowback. She's distracting from huge wins. She simply has to go. Cash Patel now considering leaving also. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, big fans of Cash and Dan. On this channel, I know them both personally. I know them to be of upstanding character with huge hearts, both of them. Chaos, as Cash Patel and Dan Bongino consider quitting over the Epstein files. Nightmare. A nightmare that was, of course, leaked to left-wing media, leaked to Axios. An unsigned memo. The exact opposite of what the administration said they were going to do on the Epstein issue, case, clients, all of it covered up. It's true. This is now a matter of fact that it was covered up. It's a nightmare. Sources close to Bongino tell me it's either him or Pam Bondi, and he will not stay at the FBI if she stays at the DOJ. And a source close to the DOJ says Cash Patel also wants Pam Bondi gone. He'd consider leaving if Bongino leaves. And more frustration with the documents that Bondi hasn't released. Sources confirm to me the blow-up between Bongino and Bondi are very real. It's been brewing for months and came to a head at the White House. He's not been in office. He's not been in the office since Wednesday, it looks like. Some said he left the office on Friday. Now it looks like Wednesday. Most of the frustration in the FBI relates to the handling of the Epstein disclosures and disputes on how to proceed. Bongino appears ready to resign immediately if Bondi remains in office. Goodness gracious. If Bondi's fired, the role of Attorney General then floated potentially to Ron DeSantis. Wow. Private push behind the scenes. Potentially see Ken Paxton there. Goodness. However, the discussion has been taking place for several months about who could be Bondi's replacement if she was ever fired or resigned. It would be a huge loss for the country if we lost Dan Bongino at the FBI. That's a matter of fact. Dan Bongino will not stay. Pam must be fired. This is not negotiable. I stand with Dan Bongino. A lot of people are making this stance, including some people we deeply respect. Glenn Beck and Steve Bannon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll leave you with them as this is all just breaking news, and we have to head out and go give a speech at Turning Point event. So there's all the headline that we have. Glenn Beck and Steve Bannon making a impassioned plea to please not let Dan Bongino go. Fire Pam Bondi. Keep Dan Bongino, please. Listen to the beating heart.
Yeah, Pam Bondi hasn't been doing so well, man.
One of
I thought she would have done so much better.
Personal allies and friends. Glenn Beck, here we go.
She gaslights too much.
What's happening in Washington with Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi? A direct plea to President Trump. Please, President Trump. I know you're not involved at this level. I know that you are busy working on huge projects. But America can't lose Dan Bongino. He has so much credibility. Everybody knows him, loves him. Pam Bondi has created so much doubt and chaos in this whole thing. There's no reason for all of this. You know, either it's a massive cover-up or she's just fouled this up every single time. Please, Let's not lose Dan Bongino. If there's a choice, I hope not, but please fire Pam Bondi. Keep Dan Bongino, please.
Okay, so breaking news. Kash Patel is being reported that Kash Patel has notified that if Dan Bongino resigns because of Pam Bondi's mishandling of which he's now publicly saying is Pam Bondi's mishandling of the Epstein files, that Kash Patel, will step down as director of the FBI to follow Dan. If I can just give you the way I think the system works, right? I assume that Dan and Kash got some sign-off before they made those statements, right? I don't think those are random statements.
I'm going to cut things a little bit.
Here's why why do you think there's movement right now? Is there movement from this afternoon, from yesterday? You agree that there's movement? You can see movement? You know why there's movement? No, special prosecutor. You've raised the stakes and said, we want a special prosecutor. We won't take anything else. We want to directly report to the United States. And now you're seeing the machinery starting to work. Well, upon further review, right? So do you guys still want a special prosecutor? Do you want you don't want Dan and Kash to resign, right? Remember how hard it was to get Kash confirmed? Remember how many, first off, you guys did Bobby Kennedy, Pete Hegseth. Wow, Pete's going to be here this afternoon, I think. Bobby Kennedy, Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard. We had no easy ones, right? There were no easy ones. Could we have gotten Matt Gaetz confirmed as Attorney General? You think so? Did Matt Gaetz get tossed to the wayside too early?
Reporting this story for us live from Washington. David, tell us what you're learning here.
Well, Martha, this clearly has been bubbling up over the past few days, but now spilling out into the public between Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino. He took the day off today from work, we're told, because he's so upset about the rollout of the Epstein memo that DOJ released earlier this week. Two sources familiar with the meeting say both were at the White House on Wednesday to discuss a unity path forward with the Trump administration following criticism from the Trump base about a DOJ memo out earlier this week that insisted Jeffrey Epstein's client list never existed and he committed suicide. Now, this after Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Bongino for months said Epstein information would indeed be released in some form. Bongino apparently was so upset, again, he did not come to work. One source says they haven't seen him since Wednesday at work, and he may end up resigning. He was critical of the Bureau as a podcast host before being named Deputy FBI Director. As for Bondi, she's close with President Trump, has been for years. I asked the White House if the president is happy with the Attorney General. I'm told, yes, he is. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, says the president is proud of the Attorney General's efforts to execute his Make America Safe Again agenda, restore the integrity of the DOJ, and bring justice to the victims of crime. The continued fixation on sowing division in President Trump's cabinet is baseless and unfounded in reality. That's from Caroline Leavitt. Her deputy, Harrison Fields, says of Bongino and Mr. Patel, the FBI director, the president has assembled a highly qualified and experienced law and order team dedicated to protecting Americans, holding criminals accountable, and delivering justice to victims. This work is being carried out seamlessly with unity. Any attempt to sow division within this team is baseless and a distraction from the progress being made in the public safety and pursuing justice for all. Now, while Mr. Bongino is thinking about his future with the FBI, we're told that both FBI Director Kash Patel and the Attorney General have every intention to stay and continue to serve. Martha?
All right. Breaking news there. Interesting reporting. David Spunt at the Department of Justice. Thank you very much, David.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most
very
compelling
interesting
analysis.
very interesting. I just think it's going to get a lot weirder for sure. It's going to get weirder before it gets better. I have my divining rods with me. They're always here with me. They're in front of my desk. And I feel like I want to ask questions. I really want to ask questions. And let's find out. All right. Let's see. Are my rods connected with me and my energy? That's going to help me with tonight's readings. Oh, yeah. They're ready. My rods are really good. I got to move because it likes to attack people. Let's test. Am I wearing a yellow shirt? Oh. These things are so accurate. I love it. Am I wearing actually it's like a baby green color shirt, like aqua baby? Yeah, it rolled to yes. So we got some. Let's get a true answer here. Is Pat Bonding hiding the Epstein's file and the Epstein list? Ooh, yeah. No, it's a yes. Okay. Is she protecting powerful people in that list? Ooh, it went yeah. Um, is Trump in that list? Ooh, it went to yes. Well, we knew he was on the list. I kind of knew he was on the list. No. Melania's not on the list. Nice. Okay. If you want to ask a question, the energy is too strong. I was gonna ask a question about Pat Bondi. If she's gonna get fired, or if she's gonna step down or get fired. I didn't. The screen started going crazy. The energy was going too high, so I put the rods down. When I generate a lot of electricity, I mess up the internet all the time. Never fails. But I want to ask that question. Please, internet. I'm trying to accept you, but I need to get this answer. Okay. Is Pat Bondi going to get fired or released because of what's going on? It says yes. Ooh. It says yes. Is Bongino going to quit the FBI? Ooh, it's not moving. It's not moving. You don't know if he's going to leave? Oh, they don't want to answer. Oh shit, you should see this one. This one's just going back and forth. And this one's just not budging. Wow, it doesn't want to answer. We can ask that question later. I mean, but Bongino, he knows his place. He knows how strong he is. He's a great asset for the United States, but you're not gonna get him like stupid. And his lies you could really tell when he's lying. Like when he said that Epstein himself, that was a lie. You cannot break your neck the way Epstein broke his neck. You can't do that to yourself. Like, it's very, in order to do that, it has to be with force and something like really tight around the neck to crush that vertebrae and that area. There's no way Epstein did that to himself. If you look at the autopsy report and you see like where he has like these marks and stuff around his neck, it screams that somebody did this to him. And I believe I kind of reminds me of really does remind me of Prince going down the elevator and dying. You know, because he knew a lot of secrets. He knew a lot of things. Like, he has a lot of information, especially on Epstein. He does. But you hear anything about it? You hear anything about his stuff and his personal belongings and all the things that he had? Like, who has it? Where is it? It's been a long time now. And Prince even spoke from the grave during the Diddy trial. And yet they let Diddy go. You know, he did get charged with 2 charges, but that's like a consolation prize. That's like, yeah, you're gonna spend some time, but you'll see the light of day again, and that's messed up. I think and I hope that the case against Jay-Z implements Diddy also, and that is where he's gonna get hammered and has to serve like his life in jail. Because I feel like these executives and these so-called rappers, they have money and they think that by having all this money that they can control the narrative. You know, they have some control. They do have some control over the narrative, but when that runs out and that those juices are gone, they're gonna flip and turn on you so fast that you're gonna be eating pancakes in the morning. And that's how these flapjacks are gonna come out so ready. Um, I don't trust these music executives and producers and the Diddy's and the R. Kellys, and there's a lot of them. There's so many of those pedophile individuals. There's so many A-listers and so many people of power. That's the reason why Pat Bonnie is hiding it. Trump doesn't want to get his friends in trouble. His friends are on that list. So the best way to not, like try to brush that under brush it under the door, under the rug. Just say there is no list, there is no file, there's nothing. Case closed. Like, yeah. So what are we gonna do with Maxwell here? She's Janine. I think Maxwell. She's in jail. She's serving over 20 something years, and why is she there for then? What's the reason she's there? Because this case closed, nothing to see here. Everything's like nothing. Then why is there a person serving jail time with a whole bunch of charges? I don't know, right? I just don't get it. I don't get it. I hope you don't get fooled by the media, because take the media with a grain of salt. Just it's for you to listen and then to interpret what's real and what's not and break it down in your head. I do that all the time. I do it every day. Let's see. what we got here. Let's go over to. Let's go to the 5. I want to see the 5. Just get it all set up over here. Let me get them all set up so that way I don't have to be doing it. Okay, I don't know why it started. Okay, this one's over, but I can see what's next on that one. This one, just gotta make it big. And okay, so we got those. I hope you're ready for the weekend. Hope you're ready. I don't agree with this plan to give Ukraine weapons, more weapons. Like Trump ran on not helping Ukraine, to stop helping Ukraine and stop funneling money and weapons to Ukraine. But yet now says Trump plans to send weapons through NATO allies to Ukraine. I just think that's a huge mistake. I mean, Trump is making so many mistakes. I don't know who's guiding Trump right now or who has his ear, but whoever's the one that's having his ear right now is really telling him the negative, like telling him like opposite of what he should be doing. It's just wild because there's so much evidence, and Bongino knows. That's the thing, because he has insiders, he has reporters, he knows people, and they're reporting to him, and they're telling him, look, something's not right here, and he knows it's not right, and yeah. Let's see. We got some stuff here I want to watch, so let me just set them up, and then we're gonna watch them, and then I'll be done for the night. It's not gonna be it's definitely gonna be a short show. I want to go to sleep early. I wasn't feeling good earlier this morning, so but I got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to show. So let's get to it. Let's go to where I'm gonna go. Yeah, let's go to the 5. And then we'll watch that, and then we'll watch the rest. Here we go.
Since the unthinkable, President Trump coming millimeters from death. An assassin's bullet grazed his ear. It left him bloodied, but not broken. He rose to his feet, fists in the air, but tragically, a brave firefighter lost his life. This Sunday marks that dark anniversary, and President Trump sat down with Lara Trump to reflect on the day chaos hit Butler, Pennsylvania.
I didn't know exactly what was going on. I got whacked. There's no question about that. And fortunately got down quickly. People were screaming, and I got down quickly, fortunately, because I think they shot 8 bullets. Then one got me, and one got another one, and one got another one, and one killed Corey, the firefighter. Great guy. Our sniper, within less than 5 seconds, was able to get him from a long distance with one shot. If he didn't do that, you would have had an even worse situation. It was really bad. But he really did a fantastic, his name is David, and he did a fantastic job. We got a little bit lucky in that regard.
As for the agency that failed him, the Secret Service has suspended 6 agents from Trump's detail without pay for up to 42 days, a slap on the wrist for a near assassination. Before we get into the particulars of this, I want to ask you, Greg, 1 year ago, it's just been a year since that happened. It's been 2 years since Trump was under federal criminal indictments all up and down the East Coast. Wow. I mean, it's kind of wild to think about.
Sometimes I like to travel to a parallel universe. What if this were a Democrat? Could you imagine how the media would have reacted, how we would have been treated? it would have been talks of white supremacy, MAGA extremism, militant parents, the crackdown on all of us, on speech. But then it happened to him, and what, one news cycle, it was act like it didn't happen at all. Some people denied that it happened. I saw the wound, I don't know, a couple of days after. Trump shows me the wound, and he goes, I'm showing it to you because I bet a lot of people don't believe it. I thought he was joking, but he was right. Because the moment I said that I saw it, that became news. You know, and then you think about the rhetorical restraint that happened. How long did that actually last? You know, demonization is their crack, and they can't stop hitting that pipe. They were back on it, and it's a mindset. It's not about policy anymore. It's a mindset that was instilled before Democrats had a chance for thoughtfulness. Starts on campus. The idea that if you see everything through the lens of power, all things are acceptable. These ICE protests are acceptable. The rise of socialism in New York is acceptable. The persistent demonization is acceptable. And it all stems from this filter that if you disagree with me politically, you are an oppressor.
So, Jillian, after that, the former director, Kimberly Cheadle, famously resigned her post. Since then,
testimony.
After
in which
disastrous
testimony.
Ooh. Since then, 6 agents, we're now told, have been punished in some way. It does seem like for a massive screw up like that there might have been a little bit more of a retribution within the agency.
It does seem strange, right? I mean, the first thing to happen in politics when there's a problem, when something goes haywire and crazy wrong, is that like a cabinet official falls on their sword for the president. Nothing like that seems to have gone down here in the wake of, I guess, Cheadle standing down. But that was before anybody knew anything. I mean, part of the reason she stepped aside was because she was asked by Congress to talk about some of the details of planning that went into that day, and she had nothing, and wouldn't share anything whatsoever. So it is quite odd, I would say, that there's not been more fallout, that so few details are made public even today. I will say something good to come out of all of this is that Alexis McAdams interviewed Corey Comparator's widow today. Quite moving interview. She talked about how her family has been completely forgotten in all of this. A year later, they have no information. They have no explanation for what went wrong that day, who is at fault, what exactly happened. Pretty shocking considering, you know, her husband lost his life that day. Another thing I hate to hear people say on today, on the anniversary and all along, is that tragedy was narrowly avoided that day. It wasn't avoided.
Yeah.
Right.
A man died. I mean, and the president was shot nearly in the head, and thankfully he's okay, but a man actually died.
No.
And astonishingly little is known about the shooter still.
Totally. It blows everyone's mind. No matter how you vote, I feel like this is the uniform reaction, which is, how is it possible that we don't know more about that kid? Like, he's cremated 48 hours later. Where are his parents? They don't have to explain any of this. I mean, Trump was interviewed by Bret Baier in mid-May, and Brad asked him about it. He said, anytime that we push about this, we get stonewalling back from the agency on it. And Trump said the kid had 3 apps on his phone. 2 were foreign apps. In some, years before, his family had managed to afford this very high-end lawyer, even though they didn't have a ton of money. Like, what is the deal with this family? And even the guy who showed up on the golf course to kill him, he said he had 18 cell phones. We don't know anything about that. And to your point, Kennedy, we don't know anything about the Vegas shooter, right? And it's been years about that. And by keeping us in the dark, and I am in no way saying that they should tell us every single detail of these things. Like, they're the professionals, and there's some information that should be shared and that needs to be kept private within the intelligence community. But nobody is buying the idea that this is just a 6 agents suspended for 42 days kind of situation. It makes no sense. And we were in Milwaukee for the RNC when this happened. You're watching the guy who was on the BBC live saying he's up there. Remember the guy who was being interviewed? Like, and that a local cop got up there, then came back down. None of it makes any sense.
No surprise to you the government is really good at being incompetent. And I mean, they're truly incompetent about everything,
Yeah.
but they're really good at keeping secrets.
Well, and this was also the event that shifted the race.
Yeah.
You know, as you remember, Elon Musk said famously that he was staying out of American presidential politics, certainly during the last election cycle. And the president's reaction helped him to realize that we had to do something more in this country to take it back. And I just assumed, when polls started going in Trump's favor, and at the very end of the race, when it looked like, it was not quite as tight as we had been led to believe, when he was reelected, I'm like, one of the first things I thought was, great, we're going to have a massive overhaul of the Secret Service. Yeah. This is what has to happen, because you can't have this happen again, regardless of which party happens to have their man or woman in power. And, there should have been more outrage from Democrats. There should have been more outrage and calls for a drastic restructuring. And a year later, we're hearing about a few suspensions when, to Jessica's point, if you look at the timeline and this kid's whereabouts, how they were known to so many different people, including local law enforcement, before Trump took the stage, and they still were unable to communicate that to the Secret Service, to his team, to keep him off the stage when there was a kid with drones and a viewfinder on top of a roof. So the fact that the ill communication between local and federal law enforcement, that hasn't been addressed and remedied, and that should be just one small part of it, but that is truly shocking.
This is how you wind up with something that we're still talking about in 60 years. And we probably will still be talking about
Well,
this.
at least we solved the Epstein controversy.
And the Kennedy.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's get out of this real fast.
Let's go. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's listen to the next one because I have another 5 here. So let's jump over here and listen.
Scene of violence there erupting at 2 marijuana farms out west in California. 200 illegal immigrants were arrested. More than 500 protesters showed up on scene there to try and antagonize that operation. One man was seen pulling a gun, appearing to fire on federal agents who were conducting lawful raids at those sites just outside LA. The feds had arrived on the scene with a warrant for illegal employees. Other agitators can be seen here blocking roads, attacking agents with rocks. The CBP commissioner claims the pot farm in question is now under investigation for child labor violations. They released this image of 10 migrant juveniles, 8 of them unaccompanied. President Trump's border czar says the protesters have now crossed a clear line. Listen.
What happened in California is just another example of protesters becoming criminals. And they've been emboldened by even members of Congress who compare ICE to Nazis and racists and terrorists. I mean, the rhetoric is so high. And I said 2 months ago, it's going to end up with a loss of life. And we had one the other day in Texas. And it's not over. I mean, the rhetoric has to end. ICE agents are simply enforcing the law that members of Congress enacted.
Well, California's Governor Gavin Newsom sharing his outrage, saying, quote, kids running from tear gas, crying on the phone because their mother was just taken from the fields. Trump calls me new scum, but he's the real scum. The attacks on ICE agents capped a dangerous week for immigration officials who faced 2 separate ambushes on their facilities and a whole lot of heated rhetoric.
I don't care. Throw me in jail. Do what you have to do. I'm going to continue to stand up what's right.
Will be a reckoning for some of the actions that actual law enforcement have done.
They are kidnapping people and transporting them to concentration camps.
Those chilling words that we used to hear in movie dialogue about Nazis, papers please, are now more chilling than ever.
Well, Charlie, the FBI is now offering a $50,000 reward for information that can lead to the apprehension of the guy who was seen there with the gun, appearing to try and shoot an ICE officer.
Yeah, and it's really kind of extraordinary if you step back and look at it. You have the scenes that we saw right there, an actual, what appears to be somebody firing at ICE agents who are, as Homan points out, just enforcing the law. And then you have the governor of California, maybe Democrats, one of their very best hopes for 2028, actually siding with the protesters in this case, against ICE agents and continuing to vilify ICE agents. And then you have the mayor of LA now talking about wanting to give actual cash payments to illegals paid for by American taxpayers who have been disrupted by all this. Look, 2 of the past 3 elections have been about immigration, illegal immigration. Democrats have lost both of them. The 2020 election was about COVID. I don't think that's going to come back. But if Democrats want 2028 to be about illegal immigration again, I don't think it's going to work out very well for them. But that appears to be the sort of direction they want to go in.
Well, so to take it from there, Jessica, I've heard a lot of people say today, pushing back, that when it comes to illegal immigration in the next election cycle, 320,000 children is the figure that I've heard floated that went missing during the Biden administration, that being children who crossed the border illegally, either unaccompanied or with family members, and then remain somehow unaccounted for today.
Not good, obviously. And Democrats had a loss in their hands in 2024 because of an immigration issue. I mean, it was also an election about the economy and inflation and grocery prices. But I have not seen a Democrat who says that we could run the same campaign again. Finding those children, taking responsibility for mistakes made in the first 3 years of the Biden administration, I think will be central to anyone who is going to be a real contender in a primary that will probably have 20 people standing up on that stage again. So not looking to go backwards on that. But in terms of looking at what's going on today and looking forward, one of the things that makes Donald Trump so successful is that he can be ideologically inconsistent and still maintain his support. And one of the things that I think in his gut, he's actually more reasonable about are aspects of the immigration problem. Like when he says things like the people who, pick the crops or the people who work in the hotels, those are good people. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the criminals. Then Stephen Miller comes in and he says, no, we mean everybody. But now Axios is reporting that they want to have a new visa system. They want to try to fast track these visas for people who do pick our fruit and pack our meat and clean our hotels. I'm sure Stephen Miller will freak out about that again, but that is the type of position that the average American, not just the Trump voter, but the average Democrat could actually get behind. And there was a new Gallup poll.
I mean, if they're putting it back into society, I think it's
on this
okay.
immigration issue, 35% approval, 62% disapproval. Now only 30% want immigration decreased. That's down from 55% just last year.
This guy's shooting.
Record high 79% think immigration is good for the country. Only 38% supporting mass deportation. Things are changing because of how people are seeing that this plan is being enforced. President Trump, if you're going to fast track visas for people, good folks that do these jobs, I think that's a step in the right direction, but Democrats have a massive opportunity.
Well, Greg, everybody said who was in favor of legalizing marijuana, right? Legalize the pot, legalize the means of distribution, legalize the drug. It's going to see this huge reduction in crime, right?
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to these 2 incidents this week, you're seeing a marijuana plant that is now facing multiple lawsuits for not paying wages to its illegal workers. You're seeing them facing an investigation now for using child labor. You had an illegal immigrant on the property who tried to shoot an ICE officer. It's not looking good.
Oh, come on.
That's not
These
good.
are just like hardworking people, probably honor students. They probably do a lot of volunteer work. Imagine watching Jaws and rooting for the shark. Imagine watching Night of the Living Dead and rooting for the zombies. Imagine watching Fox and Friends and rooting for Kilmeade. For some reason, the modern Democrat, the modern progressive picks the wrong side in every contest.
That guy's going to get in trouble.
And then they hide behind this shield of false compassion so that they can claim that they're on the right side. We're just protecting the juveniles. No, you're embracing child labor. That's what Gavin Newsom just did.
Wow.
Just like they embraced, a wife beater, the Maryland dad, gang members. Oh, they're not really there. The twisted men invading women's safe spaces. Oh, no. They're an oppressed group. When you play that montage of all those losers, just remember, Do not get your news or your polls from them because they don't mean a thing.
What?
You can claim they're devastating. You can claim the polls doesn't mean anything because it's not credible. It is not credible. And I'll tell you why. The legacy media claimed
10
migrant
children,
gangs taking
migrants,
over apartments in Aurora,
working
Colorado.
in a
didn't
marijuana
happen.
field.
Now they had to walk it back.
Marijuana-
The Times did a whole piece on how,
this is
my God,
crazy.
Trinidad was in these apartment buildings and they
What
were
are
terrorizing
kids doing
downtown
out there?
Aurora. Of course, there's the myth building
Young
of the
kids.
Maryland dad, right? Oh, no, he's such an innocent man. And then you find out he's a wife beater. He's a human trafficker. Then do not forget the accusations of border agents that they were whipping Haitians. What happened to that story? Never got an apology for that. So this will always play out in the same way. You enforce the law, they pretend to care. But they always choose the side that is breaking the law because they see the system as oppressed. That is the filter that they use in every case. The party, the Democratic Party, you were mentioning, are they going to change? Can they change? No. They're like a therapy patient who claims they want to change, who claims they want to get better, as long as they can still do meth. So they assume, I could solve all my problems, but without addressing the source of the problems. In this case, their meth is this identity that they've culled from being, I would say from the campuses, that everything that works in America has to be part of an oppressive system that needs to be dismantled, whether it's law enforcement or the border, whatever you want.
Kennedy, I saved the best for last for you. Take a listen to LA's mayor talking about illegal immigration, her new plans for her city.
She needs to
We
be
also
put in
are going
jail.
to have a reinstitution of the Angelino card, something that Mayor Garcetti started
needs to be
during
put in
COVID
federal jail.
that will actually provide
Alcatraz.
cash assistance to people. Because, you have people who don't want to leave their homes, who are not going to work, and they are in need of cash.
So she's, to be clear, she's talking there about folks who are in LA illegally.
Yes.
So because the government is no longer providing funding, she's now going to raise it elsewhere to make sure that people continue to receive
This
it.
unfortunately is the natural conclusion of a sanctuary state and a sanctuary city. This is what they've invited. They want people to come into the state. They want people to come into the city because they work for cheap. Los Angeles and California both have massive budget deficits. And this has been the entire idea. I mean, this is what the economy rests upon. It's on the backs of people who are working for far less than minimum wage. And Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass aren't crying about that. They want them to be voters, but they have no problem that their, entire industries are taking advantage of kids who are here. It's like, one could argue that being trafficked for work is almost as devastating as the sexual abuse that a lot of these kids also come across when they're not here with an adult. They get lost within the system. And, Gavin Newsom isn't crying about that. He ekes out these little crocodile tears whenever it gives him political cover for the failures, which are colossal and state. And so he will use this as like he's crying for a moment about people who he has invited here and turned his back on and allowed pretty much every industry to take advantage of.
Wow. Well,
other than that, I think he's amazing and I'm voting for him again.
I was just going to say, I think we're going to leave it there. This is going to be the first time in history I ever ended an A block on time, but now you have to say something.
Well, no, I wasn't going to say anything other than happy Halloween.
It wasn't funny the first time.
But it wasn't on camera.
Had to get it in there. All right, well, coming up next.
Now she's overtime.
Now I'm overtime and I'm distracted by the sound of Greg's furious marker scribbling.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Here.
You won't get it anywhere else.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks for being with us here on your Friday night. Hope you're getting a good start to your weekend. I know so many of you over the last 3.5+ years have been following each and every turn in the war in Ukraine as they continue to fend off Russian aggression with the United States' help here. Earlier this week in Rome, there was a summit talking about Ukraine's future and how they are going to rebuild our Special envoy for Russia and Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, was there. He met with Volodymyr Zelensky. This coming as well as President Trump said in an interview on the phone with NBC News yesterday that he's going to be making a major statement on Russia on Monday. This as the United States is selling weapons to its NATO allies in Europe so they can provide them to Ukraine as it struggles to fend off a recent escalation in Russia's drone and missile attacks. Trump saying this in that interview with NBC News, we're sending weapons to NATO, and NATO is paying for those weapons 100%. Let's bring into the conversation now national security analyst and expert and retired Marine intelligence officer Hal Kempfer. He joins me. Hal, good to be with you, and happy Friday here. It's been a busy week on the international front. Wanted to ask you this. How customary is this that the United States sells weapons to the NATO alliance for NATO members in the very alliance to use for another country's war that it's fighting?
You know, Andrew, it does seem a little odd, although I heard discussions of something very similar to this going back quite some time. The idea of using the profits from the seized assets or frozen assets that the Russians have been used to pay for buying arms for Ukraine for quite some time. There was talk at one time that maybe those assets could be liquidated and that could be used to pay for arms for Ukraine. And at that time, the idea was that the U.S. would take lead and the preponderance of that money would go to the U.S. to provide arms to Ukraine. So this is kind of in that same theme. The idea is that the U.S. isn't just giving arms away to Ukraine, but it's actually selling them. Of course, with that said, a Senate committee that actually approves sending arms to Ukraine just approved with an amazing, I think it was like 28-1 vote in favor of a $500 million going to Ukraine as a, basically that is a gift, if you will. I don't know how you want to describe it, but that is aid from the U.S. direct. So there still is a lot of political support within Congress for that. But this is something that's been kind of kicked around for a bit. At first I looked at it, I scratched my head. I go, why are we doing this? Is this parsing hairs? Is this trying to somehow, and I'm sure a lot of people are asking this, is this somehow appeasing the Russians in some way, that we're not sending aid directly to the Russians? And I really think what it is, and if you get into certainly Donald Trump's rhetoric and stuff, is he thinks like a businessman. And he's looking, we got the arms, they need the arms. Let's just find a way to get them over there. And he's looking at NATO nations as an intermediary.
Okay, I want to talk about intermediaries. On the flip side of that, maybe Trump is thinking, we talk about whether or not he's operating on 3D, 4D, or 5D chess, that if we sell the United States weapons to NATO and NATO gives them to Ukraine, that's not just a second order tier, that's a third order tier, third degree removed from the United States, the weapons that we make, we provide, being used against Russian soldiers. Do you think that's part of the calculation?
It's part of the calculation, but I will say it's not a unique thing. I know it sounds kind of odd because of the way it's been phrased, but I've seen this within Europe. They have been doing this. A number of nations have some unusual laws about that. So they have been selling arms to one country, and then that country does something, and then they send that to another country, and somehow it makes its way into Ukraine. So there is a pattern here. There's something that's been established that's within Europe. We haven't done this, although I have heard that some arms have come out of Asia that have moved through NATO countries to get over to Ukraine.
Interesting.
Because those countries couldn't send them direct. And so this isn't a brand new concept. I think really what it is, though, is that Donald Trump wants to make sure that we're getting paid for the aid. That's something he campaigned on. Basically, he's called at times NATO freeloaders, if you will, and stuff like that. Well, what he's trying to say is, look, this is in Europe, this is NATO, and NATO needs to put up money for this. And within NATO, there are countries that have a really large chunk of those frozen Russian assets.
Right.
So there is a way within NATO to make money move to pay for this stuff.
All right, Hal, let's talk though about somewhat of the efficiency of this. According to Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, he says it's a lot faster to move something, for example, from Germany to Ukraine than it is to order it from a U.S. factory and get it there. Logistically speaking, this makes sense, does it not?
Well, okay. Theoretically, yes.
You disagree? You disagree with the Secretary of State there?
I'm not going to say I disagree with him, but yes, if something's in Europe, if something's in Germany and you move it to Ukraine, it's a lot faster. However, if it's U.S. arms, they've got to get to Germany first. So it depends on where the origination point is of the arms in that regard. Although with that said, there's stuff that, we could replenish war stocks that we have in Germany and then use some of the war stocks that we're rotating out and move those over to Ukraine. And I'll give you an example of that. One of the things we had a lot of are the 113 armored vehicles. We don't really use 113s. Those are old vehicles. That's really goes back to Vietnam War time frame. However, they have been very utilitarian for the Ukrainians in moving forces to and from the front lines. They provide a degree of protection. Not great for battlefield where there's a lot of anti-tank missiles and stuff flying around, but for rear area stuff, they've been very useful. So they've been able to make those useful. That's something that we have that you would probably find in war stocks, either in the U.S. or over in Europe.
Okay.
That's something that could be brought down, depreciated, moved out, and sent over to Ukraine, and we could replenish those with armored vehicles that we actually use.
Okay. Hal, lastly, though, you're talking about the types of weapons. Let's focus, lastly, our efforts on this type of weapon, the Patriot system there. That Ukraine has been asking for more of. Is it going to be in this latest tranche?
It does sound that way. It's interesting. Patriots, it sounds like some of the Patriot missiles, and it sounds like HIMARS are going to be going in that. In fact, there was a number of high-end systems, which are certainly stuff that we need for our war stocks. We need to build up a lot more. There's a report that came out last week that said if there's a big war with China, for example, our near-peer competitor, and with all the other commitments, we got about 25% of the Patriot systems we need. So certainly we have a big demand on that, but it does sound like those air defense systems are going in. That's what Ukraine's been asking for. That's what the Europeans have been saying. Hey, look, U.S., you've got to get more of these things in there.
Yeah.
And also, you have to remember, a lot of those things that were supposed to go to Ukraine got diverted over to Israel. And so there is a deficit of those air defense weapons, those air defense missiles in Ukraine. So they have to kind of fill that gap. And you've seen what the Russians are doing.
Yeah.
They're saying these massive waves of missiles and drones taking advantage of this, lowered readiness position with air defense that Kyiv and other key Ukrainian cities have right now.
All right. How come we're going?
Wow. I guess Trump says he plans to make a major statement on Russia next week. Let's see what this is about.
Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, and I do want to get right back into the headlines at this hour as the administration has resumed sending some weapons to Ukraine a week after the Pentagon had directed that some deliveries be paused. That is according to U.S. officials. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth directed the pause on some shipments last week to allow the Pentagon to assess its weapons stockpiles in a move that caught the White House by surprise. Admiral Mark Montgomery is a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defensive Democracies and heads up the Center on Cyber and Technology Innovation. He does have over 30 years of experience in the U.S. Navy and testifies regularly on Capitol Hill on foreign policy issues. Joining us now live to discuss all of this and what happens next. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. And overall, just kind of getting into it right here, what does this decision to resume those weapons transfers there really say about President Trump? Why did he do it? And what does it say overall?
Well, it says, as one would expect, that President Trump is in charge. And I think this decision, made, and I don't think it was made by Pete Hegseth. I think he was signing off on a decision. He signs a lot of decisions every day. This was a big one, but made by some of his lower level subordinates, was inconsistent with where President Trump was going with policy towards Ukraine, but more importantly, Russia. And it's really clear that President Trump has soured on President Putin and his delaying efforts when it comes to achieving a meaningful ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. And so it's a reflection of his desire to end the war, and the impediment to ending that war is Vladimir Putin.
And I did want to ask, because you referred to this, the deliveries here as a, quote, great first step. What's missing in President Trump's current Ukraine strategy, in your opinion and expertise?
So I think this is the first step, and I think a few more things are needed. The first thing that's needed is to embrace Senator Lindsey Graham's Russia Sanctions Act, and that's to bring real, meaningful sanctions on Russian fossil fuels, their oil and natural gas. That's what primes the Russian economy. And while they are sanctioned, there are secondary and tertiary receivers of that fuel, that oil and natural gas, mostly China and India, who are violating the sanctions by taking these so-called shadow fleet oilers, illegal oilers with oil and natural gas on them. So he wants to sanction those. And if you do that, you'll cut off a lot of funding to Vladimir Putin's regime.
And right here, we actually have a post from Bloomberg as they posted on X and said, Trump said that he plans to make a, quote, major statement on Russia as the U.S. prepares to send a volley of new American weapons to Ukraine via purchases from NATO allies. What do you make of that overall, this statement that's coming on a, quote, major statement on Russia?
Well, I'm hoping that one of the elements of that major statement are the sanctions. The other is clearly going to be the new weapons, access to our defense industrial base, which is key. Kiev or Ukraine needs defensive weapons. That is the Patriot missiles that go on the Patriot launchers and the what are called AMRAAM missiles that go on the NASAMS launchers, and then the AIM-9 Sidewinders that go on F-16s. 2 of those 3 weapons were paused, and I think all 3 of them are going to be unpaused, and then access to even more. Those are critical because they shoot down ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones launched by Russia against Ukraine. And we've seen, as your coverage has shown very clearly, that those missiles are not hitting military targets. They're hitting civilian targets, civilian critical infrastructure, and killing civilians. And President Trump wants that to stop. He's told Putin, Vladimir, stop. And if Vladimir won't stop, he's going to give Ukraine the ability to make that, to reduce their likelihood of hitting.
Going a little bit deeper into that right now, can you explain the weapons overall that are being sent over there and really what you think should be sent over by the U.S. to kind of help Ukraine versus Russia?
So the kind of weapons going over are mostly those defensive weapons, air defense weapons like Patriots, which go on a Patriot launcher, AMRAAMs, which go on NASAMS launchers. Those both shoot down cruise and ballistic missiles.
Weapons runner now.
Also, AIM-9 Sidewinders, they go on the F-16s.
We sell weapons now.
NATO countries have provided.
You think that's saving the world?
Ukraine and the U.S. is supported with like pilot training and maintenance and stuff. And those shoot down drones and cruise missiles. So that's what's going to go.
Bad behavior.
And also artillery rounds and anti-tank rounds will go. What needs to go in addition, and that's a great question because they do need more. There were places where the Biden administration had come up short for sure. And that includes like a rocket launcher system that goes on F-16 so you can shoot down drones cheaply. And then this is the key. If he does this, it's the strongest signal to President Putin.
So this could open up
begin the reselling again of long-range strike weapons. That's the guided missile launcher rocket system that goes about 60 miles. That can hit Russian forces behind the lines. And then the ATACMS, which is a long range, more like a 300-mile missile that can really reach even into Russia and strike Russian formations. And so, if he starts to sell those and gives them unrestricted use, which the Biden administration never did, I think Putin's going to really have to think twice, come to the table. So sanctions, defensive systems, offensive weapon systems, that's the whole package that I think pressures Vladimir Putin to the table.
Going kind of in reverse here, as we talk about what happened several months ago here between President Trump and Zelensky over in the White House as they were meeting, obviously things were very tense. Some words started flying around. So how do you think that Putin's actions here over the past several weeks with Trump have kind of changed President Trump's thoughts on Ukraine overall?
Well, that's a great point. I think it's 2 elements. One is Zelensky has really responded to everything President Trump has asked. When President Trump says do this, he does that. He has been an exceptionally compliant and useful and loyal partner to the United States in terms of when he goes to the negotiating table, he carries forth the agenda that President Trump wants. That's number one. President Zelensky is demonstrating his value as a partner. Number two is President Putin's ignoring President Trump. And I mean, to the degree where they have a phone call, you think, President Trump will come out and say it went great because Putin told Trump whatever he needed to hear. And about 3 hours later, there's a 700 drone, 50 cruise missile attack into civilian infrastructure in Kiev, which is basically, kind of a big, middle finger. And, the president used some foul language about how Putin treats him. And so I think it's those two things: Zelensky's willingness to do it right and Putin's unwillingness to do anything.
All right. Admiral Mark Montgomery, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and discuss all of this. Obviously a developing story, so we'll keep an eye on it. Is there anything else that you want to add overall that maybe we missed before I let you go?
Yeah, the last thing I'd say is that I spend time with Ukrainian troops. I see how they're fighting. These guys are not, men and women are not going to lose. Even if we were to cut off support, they would still not lose. They're not going to win, but they're not going to lose. But a lot more civilian, if we don't support them, what's really at play are civilian casualties, civilian infrastructure being destroyed by Putin's aggressiveness. So when we step into the breach here, we're not stepping in to try to overthrow the Putin regime. We're stepping in to stop civilian casualties, which is something President Trump believes in.
All right, Admiral, thank you again for taking the time to be here with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And I do want to pop this up on your screen once again. This is that post coming in from Bloomberg saying that Trump said that he plans to make a, quote, major statement on Russia as the U.S. does prepare to send a volley of new American weapons to Ukraine via purchases from NATO allies. So we'll bring you more on that statement as we do get it.
Wow. Are we about to see World War III? The real World War III? It could be. It could be. Russia got the weapons. Russia got a lot of nuclear weapons. We could hit all soft targets between Ukraine, UK and Netherlands and all throughout Europe. These weapons, they have a lot of warheads. So it could hit multiple areas and blow up multiple areas. A lot of people will die. That's scary. I think I got 2 stories to go. Actually, no. I got 4 stories to go. So let's try to go through it pretty quick here. Okay. Let's go ahead and set this one up.
Do you want to take a couple of questions, Governor? Would you want to do that? Do you want to? Is the press going to be respectful of this event, this horrible event, this horrible tragedy? Please, yes. Go ahead, please. Well, I think everyone did an incredible job under the circumstances. This was, I guess Christie said, a 1 in 500, 1 in 1,000 years. And I just have admiration for the job that everybody did. There's just admiration. Only a bad person would ask a question like that, to be honest with you. I don't know who you are, but only a very evil person would ask a question like that. I think this has been heroism. This has been incredible, really, the job you've all done. It's easy to sit back and say, oh, what could have happened here or there, maybe we could have done something differently. This was a thing that has never happened before. And nobody's ever seen anything. I've never seen anything like this. I've gone to some real bad ones. I've never seen anything like this. So I admire you, and I consider you heroes and heroine And I think you've done an amazing job.
Yeah, I think it's over like 500 people dead. Because it's really, really bad. They don't want to put those numbers up high, you know, because they don't want to scare people. Because people will get scared easily. But I think it's a really high number. Remember, it was 4th of July weekend. People were camping. People were intense, man. That's what I'm trying to explain to y'all. It's like, put yourself out there. Like, 4th of July weekend, you're there with a lot of people, family, friends. Everyone's hanging out. Everyone's having a good time. Everyone's happy. You know, your neighbors are sharing food with you. Like, they're like, yo, you want to trade? You know, we try a little bit of ours. I'll try a little bit of yours. Oh, hell yeah. That sounds fucking good. You know, we used to have good times. I remember camping. Like, I've gone camping before, and it was so fun. I had a great time. I love the mornings. I like waking up, and it was so cool in the mornings, and like it felt so nice to wake up in the woods in the morning, and then to start a fire because I was the fire starter. So I put the wood together and like that, light it up, got it lit really good, added more wood to it, and then all the kids started waking up, and the fire was already roaring, so they just sat next to the fire and they felt so good. They were so happy. We had good times. It was good memories. But, you know, I don't know. I haven't gone camping again since. I haven't done it. I don't know if I want to do it. I have to get a good bed, like a good air mattress. Just because my neck is a bitch. You guys don't understand. My neck is really bad. It's jacked up. But let me see. Where should I go? Just go to the migrant one here. This was a long one though. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna play this one. This was too long. This was not too bad. And then I'm gonna finish off with Tyson. Tyson put up a video. Tyson de la Cruz. So we're gonna watch that one too. That one's just too long. Let's watch this one. And let me set up Tyson. It's right here. Set up his. I know his is gonna be good. They already hit him with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I don't know what that is. They already tagged his channel. I'm pretty sure they're gonna tag mine too. But I still support my boy and his work. He's doing really good. Gotta keep up the good work. Even though they put that label on you, they're gonna put it on me too. Y'all already know how I feel about YouTube already. All right, let's get to the last two, and then I'm out of here. So let's go set this up. All right, enjoy.
Well, not giving non-citizens access to benefits designed for Americans seems like common sense. Well, you'd be surprised because the White House is officially cutting off taxpayer-funded benefits from immigrants in the country illegally, saying saving Americans an estimated $40 billion. The Trump administration says this has been going on for years, and this move isn't just welfare reform. It's a full-scale rollback of what the president calls decades of bureaucratic defiance. Brian, I'll come to you first. We're talking about Head Start. We're talking about technical education programs, free tuition, SNAP. What's the right thing to do?
Well, it's this. I mean, the crazy thing about these stories is who even knew what kind of benefits illegals were getting? I mean, it's all buried. It's all in the bureaucratic mess. And this is why people say that you've got a huge magnet in the United States, because when you give away basically unlimited welfare benefits, it's a huge incentive for people to come here. So it's sort of obvious that we should end this. You have to be a citizen of the United States, and we should, my view is we should reduce these benefits at the same time, which I think is what the big, beautiful bill in a way was starting to do across the board, get fraud out of this. But this is just a duh moment.
Yeah.
Just most Americans would look at this and say, yeah, why would we be giving those benefits?
Well, and the Democrats,
thank you for doing it.
And the Democrats are playing fast and loose with the facts on the big, beautiful bill as it relates to this. What they're trying to say is those cuts in the big, beautiful bill, we're cutting Medicaid. This is part of the cuts, cutting it out for illegal immigrants and people that don't deserve to get the benefits. I mean,
and people are going to die, Charlie.
I don't care. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. I don't care what they say about Doge, like, oh, didn't do enough. The fact that we know what USAID does and
the awareness was
of
priceless.
Funding transgender dance festivals in Bangladesh on
Quick
my
question,
dime
though.
is crazy.
What do you say? And I'm not saying I agree with this, but the pushback, Jerry, has always been, well, these kids were brought in by their parents. Why are we punishing them? They didn't do this. And yet you're taking benefits away from them. How do you solve the cries from the left about you're so mean, you don't believe in humanitarian issues? How dare you when they didn't choose this?
And on top of that, just to continue your theory here, a lot of people on the streets in this country, some of them are here illegally. Do you just let that go on? Do you let it fester? These are the programs. Yes.
All right. So there was a great clip that was circulating with the guy that goes to the board on CNN, and he had a diverse set of polls. And the question was, do you want to see illegals deported from this country? Not just the criminals, people who are illegal that don't belong here. Do you want to see them out? And I believe down across the board, more than half, it was numbers higher than 50% saying, yes, get them out of here. And this brings us back to the heart of the birthright citizenship case. President Trump's executive order on that matter, the lower courts trying to stall the project. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about constitutional interpretation. I can't wait until the Supreme Court takes it up because these people have been sucking up benefits that are, should be given to Americans for years and years
put
and
them
years.
Up in luxury hotels. I mean, who ever heard of this? You come here illegally. We're going to give you a debit card. We're going to put you up in luxury hotels. Well, by the way, we'll give you an app to tell you how to tap into
how to
these
game
benefits.
the system.
I mean, it really is
That's
kind of a
crazy.
joke. And we have a lot of poor people in this country. We have a lot of problems in this country. We've got a lot of poor vets in this country.
Homeless
we have
people,
we have a
with mental
homeless
illness.
crisis. By the way, those people that are homeless, as much as we get enraged when we see them in this, and they're violent.
They need help.
They need help.
They need help.
taxpayer money to get them off the streets and to get treatment.
To get mental.
And that's where we should be spending our money. I think this is common sense stuff. And I think when most people say, well, you're depriving the kids of, first off, we're not starving the kids.
Right.
We're depriving them of a head start. And we're saying, well, maybe the parents got to go back.
Yeah. Or you shouldn't be here.
Well, that's where the Democrats love to take the locus of responsibility from parents and put it on the state. So they're saying if you cut state benefits, you're hurting the children. I think the conservative answer is those children are in the care of their parents. The parents have to make a better choice. If they make an illegal choice, they need to undo that choice.
But let's play devil's advocate. I'm 8 months pregnant and I'm desperate for my child to be an American citizen because I'm so sick of my horrible country and the American dream. And I run across the border for the sake of my child. Well, I would argue that the 14th Amendment doesn't actually provide birthright citizenship the way the Democrats read it.
You know what I would say?
So we can have a constitutional conversation about that. Stay in your own country and do it the legal way.
And by the way, look at what's going on in California. I mean, one of the biggest clowns in politics has to be Gavin Newsom. I mean, this is a guy that leads with his chin. I mean, this is a state where if you took out like three big businesses, I guess, is NVIDIA located in Silicon Valley? So I guess,
Santa Clara.
So that helps, right? That helps their economy. But you take that out, this is a state that's losing population.
Yes.
That is running on deficit mode without without Silicon Valley. There's something called Medi-Cal, I think.
Sagan talks about it all the time.
Their version of Medicare.
They put all the illegals on it.
The illegal immigrants are sucking that dry,
Right.
and average people can't live in the state. And they have a homeless problem in LA, in San Francisco. So Gavin Newsom, the second best spokesman, the second best gift for Republicans is after Mondami's number one.
Newsom.
Is that clown? I mean, yeah. And I by the way, he's a clown. I don't care what he thinks of me.
Well, you're right to bring up the exceptions because that is the argument, but exceptions make terrible policy.
Yeah,
and I think Democrats
You're right about
know
that.
that, which
You're
is
right.
why they always want to talk exceptions so that you can get terrible policy, and then they've won.
Well,
You've
and
got
you
to
know
make
what they
policy
do?
on what's substantially actually happening.
When they do that, then they say, oh, well, we've set precedent. We've been doing it for years and years and years and years. So if you've been breaking the rules or misreading the 14th Amendment for years and years and years, that means we can't ever stop doing it. I mean, that's essentially what they say in every aspect. It's like, well, we've been doing it. We can't stop now. Yes, you can.
Yeah. Got to find root causes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm only kidding.
What a
Do
great
you
way to
think that, I mean, what's interesting to me, and Charlie brought this up, is that I feel like the wool's been removed from our eyes. We've seen so many things in the last couple of years that we've never seen before, and we're still all recovering from that. Charlie, thanks for being with us for the hour.
That's wild. So the next one we're gonna watch is gonna be the last show for the night, and it's our friend of the show, Tyson de la Cruz. I'm gonna watch his upload that he put up here. So happens that I still need to talk to him to see if we could do it an hour earlier. I'd rather do this at 9 something, not so late, but it's okay. Let's watch together. Let me have it all set up. There we go. Let me come over here, set this up here. All right. So let's enjoy Tyson's reporting. Tyson de la Cruz.
109 people have died in Texas after catastrophic flooding over the weekend, and officials say around 160 are still missing.
America, what we just uncovered is one of the most shocking government failures in modern history. A new report revealed that after the Maui wildfires, 1 in 6 survivors were forced to trade sexual favors for basic supplies because FEMA was so incompetent they couldn't provide food, water, and shelter to desperate Americans. Meanwhile, in Texas, we're learning that cloud seeding operations happened just 2 days before the catastrophic floods that killed 109 people. And the CEO of the weather modification company is now claiming it's our holy duty to control the weather. But here's what's going to piss you off. FEMA spent millions of dollars housing illegal immigrants in luxury hotels while American fire victims were trading sex for survival.
And then earlier tonight, the CEO of a weather modification company confirmed that planes in Texas did release silver iode into the atmosphere 2 days before the floods.
What is up, guys? Tyson de la Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking
I have
with
that
me.
shirt.
This story exposes
I have that
everything
shirt in
wrong
that
with
color.
our federal disaster response system. FEMA fails American citizens so badly they're forced into sexual exploitation while spending taxpayer money on illegal immigrants. And weather modification companies are playing God with our atmosphere while people die in floods. Let me break down this absolutely horrifying revelation from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's FEMA review. After the Maui wildfires devastated Lahaina, 1 in 6 survivors were forced to trade sexual favors for basic supplies because FEMA's response was so catastrophically incompetent.
The situation in Lahaina was so bad that 1 in 6 survivors were forced to trade sexual favors, other favors for just basic supplies.
Think about what this means. American citizens who lost everything in a natural disaster were so desperate for food, water, and shelter that they were forced into sexual exploitation because their own government failed them. This isn't happening in some third world country. This is happening in America under FEMA's watch. Secretary Kristi Noem didn't hold back.
At the same time, illegal aliens were staying in luxury hotels using FEMA dollars. The Roosevelt Hotel is the one you're probably the most familiar with in New York City. They got to stay there for free on the taxpayer dime through this FEMA agency.
So while American fire victims were trading sex for basic survival supplies, FEMA was spending over $300 a night housing illegal immigrants in luxury Manhattan hotels. Most of the
Damn.
Roosevelt hotel rooms cost over $300 a night, paid for by American taxpayers.
A little bit
Speaking
more,
of government agencies that
$400 a night.
completely fail the people they're supposed to serve while
That's New York
wasting
City.
money on the wrong priorities, that's exactly what's happening to seniors with Medicare. Just like FEMA prioritizes illegal immigrants over
He's slick.
American disaster victims,
He's
the
slick with
Medicare
his
system
commercials.
prioritizes insurance
they-
company profits over
They move
senior
forward
healthcare
because
needs.
it's like he
Look,
takes some
FEMA had
time.
one job: help American.
Let's
Is
move
just the
forward.
latest in FEMA's staggering record failures.
He's
Kristi
slick.
Noem
He's
laid out
good.
the agency's decades of gross mismanagement. The list of FEMA failures is staggering. The scale of those failures is matched only by their longevity. Hurricane Katrina happened 20 years ago, and there's still so many open claims left over from that particular disaster that have gone unanswered. Meanwhile, in the first 2 years after Katrina, $2 billion was paid out in fraudulent claims while legitimate victims waited for help.
There's times FEMA has performed very well and has responded and delivered the help that people needed. But we look back at instances like Hurricane Katrina, which happened 20 years ago next month. There are still many open claims left over from that disaster that have gone unanswered.
After Hurricane Helene devastated the Southeast, FEMA's Disaster Relief Fund was unable to provide necessary relief because millions of dollars have been diverted into housing and transportation for illegal aliens. American hurricane victims got nothing while illegal immigrants got luxury accommodations. But it gets worse. FEMA officials in Florida actually ordered relief workers to skip houses that had Trump campaign signs. Secretary Kristi Noem confirmed the workers responsible for the horrific act of discrimination have been fired. Politics have no place in disaster relief.
Right after Helene, Hurricane Milton also hit the Southeast. It was revealed that FEMA officials in Florida ordered relief workers to skip houses that had certain campaign signs, ones that had President Trump's name on them.
Now let's talk about the Texas flooding disaster that killed 109 people and left 161 missing. The CEO of the weather modification company confirmed that planes released silver iodide into the atmosphere just 2 days before the catastrophic floods hit.
Yeah, I mean, for one, I think that this is a very consequential
Yeah, the
technology,
blue
right?
rain.
Not just anybody should be allowed to modify the weather. There should be oversight and transparency. And
The weather modification CEO claims their operations cannot come close to causing floods onto itself. But here's what's disturbing. They were manipulating weather patterns just 48 hours before a catastrophic flood that killed over 100 people. NBC News climate reporter Chase Kane explained how cloud seeding works.
Basically, what they do is they fly planes up there to give the water vapor something to grab onto. So it's a combination of silver iodide and salt, actually. And so the water vapor forms around that. Eventually, it gets heavy enough and then falls to the surface of rain.
But here's what's really concerning. A viral video shows the Rainmaker CEO admitting that they think that they're doing a duty to control the weather. They're not just seeding clouds, they're using religion to justify weather manipulation with what they're calling their holy mission. The Rainmaker CEO statement revealed a disturbing God complex among weather modification companies. They're claiming it's their religious duty to control the weather, turning what should be scientific operations into ideological missions.
Are you messing with things that you shouldn't be messing with when it comes to the weather?
I get this question all the time, and I totally think it makes sense to ask it. My intention is to serve God. I think that in Genesis 1:26 or 28, and then throughout the Psalms and the rest of the Bible, God tells us to take dominion over and steward creation, both for our sake, creation's itself, and then to honor him. And so if there are droughts and we have the tools to mitigate the damage done by them for our sake and for nature itself, then we should deploy those for the sake of tending to and stewarding the world. And if we weren't to do that, if we were to ban cloud seeding wholesale, despite knowing that it's safe, despite knowing it could help alleviate these problems, we'd be abdicating our God-given responsibility to be stewards of the world.
The timing is suspicious. Cloud seeding operations happened just 2 days before the catastrophic flooding, and the CEO claims that they have religious obligations to manipulate weather patterns. Chase Kane tried to defend the timing. This cloud seeding, it works within 15 minutes, half an hour, maybe an hour, and that's it. So that was done 2 days before. But what if weather modification can affect precipitation patterns? How do we know that it didn't contribute to the atmospheric conditions that led to the flooding?
Cloud seeding, it works within like 15 minutes, half an hour, maybe an hour, and then that's it. So that was done 2 days before.
The fact that scientists have been debating for decades whether or not this is actually very effective means we're conducting atmospheric experience without fully understanding the consequences.
been going
And
on
now
for
companies are
a
claiming
long
religious
time now.
justification for these experiments.
going on
Here's
even
what
the
exposes
80s.
the complete moral bankruptcy of our federal
It's like
disaster
everything
response. While
repeating
American fire
itself.
victims in Hawaii were forced to trade sex for basic supplies, FEMA was spending millions of dollars in housing illegal immigrants in luxury hotels. Secretary Noem revealed the staggering misallocation of resources. Most of those rooms cost over $300 a night. In 2024, when Hurricane Helene devastated the Southeast, FEMA's disaster relief fund was unable to provide the necessary relief because millions of dollars have been diverted to housing and transportation for illegal aliens. The Roosevelt Hotel in New York City became a symbol of betrayal. Illegal immigrants getting free luxury accommodations, while American citizens who lost everything in a natural disaster got nothing and were forced into sexual exploitation just to survive.
The American people deserve
crazy.
better, and they deserve better, especially in times of disaster. The answer is going to be putting the federal government in its proper place.
Kristi Noem was absolutely right. The American people deserve better, and they deserve better, especially in times of disaster. When your own government prioritizes foreign nationals over American citizens during a disaster, the system is fundamentally broken. America, this story exposes the complete moral and operational bankruptcy of FEMA. When American fire victims are forced to trade sexual favors for basic supplies, while illegal immigrants get luxury hotel rooms, your government has failed at the most fundamental level. Secretary Noem was absolutely right. FEMA needs to be eliminated as it exists today and remade into a responsive agency, an organization that allows sexual exploitation of American disaster victims while spending millions on illegal immigrant hotels doesn't deserve to exist. The Texas flood situation raises some serious questions about weather modification operations happening just before a catastrophic disaster. When the CEO claims religious justification for controlling weather patterns, we've moved beyond science into dangerous ideology. The fact that 109 people died in Texas floods while weather modification companies were manipulating atmospheric conditions just days before should trigger a massive investigation. We need to know if these operations contributed to this particular disaster. The bigger issue is government priorities. FEMA spent decades failing American citizens while diverting resources to illegal immigrants. 1 in 6 Hawaii fire survivors traded sex for supplies, while illegals get $300 a night hotel rooms is morally wrong. Don't worry, I'll keep tracking FEMA's failures and the Trump administration's effort to remake disaster response. And remember, this is what happens when your government cares more about illegal immigrants than American citizens. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
That's Tyson Dela Cruz. Good show. Good reporting on that one. That was really nice. And it's so nice that I'm finishing up the show now. It was a good night. Nice Friday night. Good night to, welcome in the weekend. Welcome to the weekend. Thank you for those who watching, and thank you for those who are rewatching. I truly appreciate it. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm very tired, but whoever's out there, have a good morning, good afternoon, and good night where I'm at. And I'll catch you on the flip side. And I'll come on here tomorrow. I'll talk some more and see what's up. And then, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Everything's just the energy, like things that Trump doing is making me feel so weird. Like I feel like the Democrat side of him is coming out. Like he's a transformer. He's acting like a Decepticon right now. Yeah. But power, once you have power, ultimate power, like puppeting, it's wild shit. Anyhow, I'll be back on here tomorrow, so have a good night tonight, and then I'll see y'all later. Peace.